What's up, everyone? I feel like a YouTuber. I want to have some sort of YouTube, like, I don't know, entrance. I don't know. These YouTubers, they all have their kind of cool little catchphrases and lines, and we're too deep in the game to not have one at this point. But what up, everyone? It's Mac and Black. What's good, Nick?
Hey, you know what? You're absolutely right. I do feel you on that. And man, dude, like I feel like in order to be a successful YouTuber, I have to like dumb down my IQ because I've been watching some of these videos that they have on YouTube, and I'm like, this is what's popular nowadays.
Oh my God.
What's going on, man?
You have to pretend like everybody who's watching is 12 years old, and they don't. You're gonna have to like literally bash them in the head with the information that you want, because that's the only way that YouTube like translates. It's so weird. Like everything's geared towards kids now.
Oh, I know. And then like I don't know if you ever seen the show Chrisley Knows Best. The youngest one, I can't think of what Grayson or whatever his name is. He's like, yeah, I want to make a YouTube video of me playing video games. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I remember when I was young and I was stuck at a video game, like I would like go on to like an actual website just so I get that little piece or wherever I'm stuck at, and then go, dude, I'm not trying to sit there and watch unless it's vaguely super entertaining. I'm not trying to watch somebody just sit there and play Need for Speed.
I'm still
for
amazed.
3 hours to get 3 million views. Like, I don't get it.
I'm still amazed at like the streaming fad right now of like streaming while I'm playing video games, and just it just makes me depressed that hundreds of thousands of people in this country make way more money than me, and all they do is sit in their room and play video games and show videos.
My Twitch is on fire, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, exactly.
Go check out my Twitch.
All right, guys, we got a ton of to get into here, but I want to just talk to you a little bit more about, obviously, the business side of things, and do us a favor, as always, guys, continue to share out the show. Continue to check us out both on Facebook. We're actually live on YouTube now as well. So if you guys have a preference as far as what platform you use to watch us, go right ahead and jump onto YouTube if that's your thing. You can always go back to these Facebook videos and watch them later. So create a tab, save them, whatever you got to do, and just share out the show and tell everyone you can about us, because we certainly want to be able to reach as many people as possible with our knowledge. I don't know. That sounds corny.
That's right.
But yeah. But anyways, guys, do us a huge favor again. Our genius, exactly. As you can tell, we have high self-esteem on this show, guys. But rmtalk.com, Rolling Meadows Talk, we've talked about it the last few weeks. It's a new local news and offer website for the Northwest suburbs. So local deals, events, business directories, and a lot more. So check out rmtalk.com. That's RM as in Rolling Meadows Talk.com. We do our live shows in Rolling Meadows, and we also do some of the live broadcasts at Reps Place over in Rolling Meadows. You guys are probably familiar with them by now. Small business, family-owned business. So again, we want to just promote as much as possible to keep, supporting small businesses, especially when it comes to like holidays, guys, and giving gifts. Stay away from Amazon, stay away from Target, stay away from these big box stores. I will name names. Stay away from these people and support small businesses. So again, guys, check out local offers and news at rmtalk.com. We do have a specific special going on here. Can you, Steve? Can you do me a favor and pull up the gift card for Reps, because that's a pretty awesome deal. We talked about it in previous shows, and again, it's just being able to go in and get a local offer. If you want to buy a gift card for Reps Place, you get a gift card back. So you get money for free just for using that code. So we'll get that to you eventually. But yeah, and again, guys, rmtalk.com, and continue to check out our show and everything else on Facebook. All right, Nick, man, what a crazy couple of days.
Hey, tell me about it, dude. And like the funny thing is, so as everybody knows, unless you live under a rock or you just can't stand the NBA, The draft was on Thursday, was it?
Yep.
And was it Thursday? Yeah,
It was,
Thursday.
yeah. Mhm.
Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was Wednesday because I was home. So it was Wednesday. And so we saw Anthony Edwards go first. And then, like, well, the funny part about this whole story is, well, it's not really funny. So we know Klay Thompson is now gone for the year with the torn ACL.
Yeah.
And immediately after the Warriors got the news that it wasn't ACL, it was torn Achilles, but he's going to have to miss the entire year. The news came out that the Warriors had traded for Kelly Oubre Jr. And the whole time I'm in the car on Thursday, I was tweaking. I was like, wait a minute. I thought the Bulls had Kelly Oubre Jr. I had the wrong junior from
right.
from the right team, wrong junior.
Yeah.
Because I had to text you, and I was like, wait a minute, dude. I thought you guys had Kelly Oubre. You're like, no, you're thinking of Otto Porter. Another genius move for Garpax.
Yeah, right. $28 million.
Yeah, and I remember that story when they went and got Otto Porter, and Garpax was more John Paxson was really trying to sell it.
Oh yeah.
He's like, well, we knew that we weren't going to get LeBron or KD or any of these guys, so we went out and decided to spend our max money on Otto Porter, and we feel like he fits what we run here in Chicago. Really, that was almost as bad as when the Miami Dolphins drafted Ted Ginn Jr. with the 10th overall pick, and Cam Cameron, who was one and done in Miami, was like, this is a fine young kid, and he's got great speed, and we feel like this is a great pick for our team. And it didn't work out as well as they thought it would. So
certainly not.
So yeah, Klay Thompson is gone for the year with the torn Achilles. The Thunder or actually the Warriors get Kelly Oubre from OKC. And dude, we saw a whole lot of plethora of deals being made this past week before we get into the draft, because while we were gone, Chris Paul got traded to the Suns. I thought that was a huge deal for the Suns, and I think it was you that had made mention that, the Suns actually have a really good young team, and coming from the bubble, even though they didn't make the playoffs, they never lost a game when the NBA season resumed in the bubble. Yeah. So getting that floor general and Chris Paul to kind of, Devin Booker, you're on that side, Ayton, I'm going to find you down here, and some of the other pieces they have, I thought that was a really good deal for Phoenix. We still haven't seen Russell Westbrook on the move yet. We haven't seen John Wall on the move. And I saw 3 reports on Twitter earlier today where John Wall did tell the Wizards that he wants to be traded. So Russell Westbrook said he wants out of Houston. John Wall said he wants out of Washington. Supposedly that there is talks in the wings of them swapping point guards, where Wall will go to Houston and then Westbrook will go to Washington. I think that trade makes no sense.
I was just about to ask, who wins? Who wins in that scenario?
Yeah, no one wins, because all it does is, I think if anyone, I think Westbrook wins a little bit, because now he can run the show in Houston. I mean, in Washington. To an extent, because you still have Bradley Beal there. But a lot of people are saying the only reason why Bradley Beal is even still in Washington is because John Wall is still there. So if you trade John Wall at that point, how happy is Bradley Beal going to be, especially if this man is kind of like your, kind of really the heart of this team, for lack of a better way of putting it, because John Wall can't stay healthy.
Yeah, and you have to remember, Wall wanted a trade. He came out and was vocal about the trade after the GM of the Wizards had already came out and said they want to build around Bradley Beal. So, John Wall's sitting there thinking, hey, I thought I was a cornerstone of the franchise. Now you're telling me my sidekick is the guy you want to build around. But before we get too far past it, because I want to sort of focus on the Chris Paul deal, because that deal was the domino that sort of knocked down the rest of the dominoes. one team that I think is getting lost in the shuffle of all of this is Oklahoma City, and what a tremendous job they've done over the last 2 or 3 years of recognizing where they're at as far as their trajectory and their window to win, and just knowing that there wasn't anything there that was worthwhile. Remember, they traded Chris Paul. They traded Chris Paul for Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, and another package with some picks. Kelly Oubre ends up getting flipped to Golden State for picks. Ricky Rubio ends up getting flipped to Minnesota for picks. I want to say they have something like 20 first-round picks over the next 5 or 6 years. It's nuts right now. So the amount of... If you're talking like, for example, the Bulls, right, and you want an example of a teardown, that's an example of a teardown. It's like, you know what? I'm going to get as much as I can for these players. And you saw the dominoes start to fall because after the Chris Paul trade, that's when you started to hear the rumors of James Harden saying, yeah, I'm done too. And most people are saying it has a lot to do with ownership, and that he's like not happy with ownership, that, you know, pro-Republican ownership, and just very they don't consult with the players as far as organizational moves with the Rockets, which you should if you got James Harden on your team. So still lots and lots of possibilities out there right now.
Yeah, I read that too, where I guess both Westbrook and James Harden were both very vocal about the Rockets owner being very pro-Trump. Yeah, it's basically what they said, and so both of them won out. And the hot rumor was that James Harden was going to go to Brooklyn, right? And supposedly the rumor was Kyrie said no. And if that's the case, I guess I kind of agree with it. In a sense of, okay, if you're going to have Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant, which is a monster three offensively, defensively, you almost take steps back. Yeah. Because Kyrie's not really that great a defender. Yeah. James Harden, we know, doesn't play defense for anything. And Kevin Durant is okay defensively, but he's no I don't know, what's a good one? Like a Ruben Patterson or Trevor Ariza from a time-to-time basis. Like, he's not really that great of an underball defender either. Yeah. So, yeah, they're going to put up 140 points, but you're also remembering here's a team that's being run by Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni, who's famous for running the 7 seconds or less but preach absolutely no defense. Right. So if Kyrie said maybe that's not a great idea, I think he might be right, because if Kyrie's got to handle the ball, and then you know that Kevin Durant's going to handle the ball, but then James Harden is a guy who's very ball dominant. Right. There's not enough ball for those three guys alone, and then you're going to strip down a team. Basically, you're going to sell all your bench players and everything for having a weak bench, and I think that really would have killed Brooklyn. But I mean, they made some I think it made a couple of moves. They got that kid from the Clippers that a lot of people Chanel, what I think is his name. Yeah, Shamet, Landry Shamet. Yeah, Landry Shamet. Yeah, really good shooter. And remember that deal with Harden. I mean, I think part of it was that Kyrie realized what they would have to give up. Karis LeVert, a tremendous young player who's going to be very, very good for a long time. Jared Allen, who has turned out to be one of the best defensive centers in the East, probably. And then you also have to give up Spencer Dinwiddie and a couple of first-round picks. That is a really heavy haul for a guy that, like you talked about, is so ball dominant. How can you, with only one ball on the court, how can Kyrie, KD, and James Harden do this without just basically relying on putting up 130 points a game and beating people 130, 125? Right. And the funny thing is it's hard to compare because, you know, I know there's going to be comparisons of the Boston Big Three with Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. And then you have, obviously, the Miami Big Three with a LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. But I think the difference between those guys was Chris Bosh wasn't a ball-dominant guy. Like, exactly. He wasn't a guy that needed – the only reason why he was that way in Toronto because he was the main offensive weapon in Toronto. Mm-hmm. But when he went to Miami, he played his role as the third guy. And LeBron and Dwayne Wade were mature enough to understand, okay, here, like LeBron's got the hot hand tonight, so he's going to be the man tonight. Or Dwayne Wade's got the hot hand tonight, so he's going to be the man tonight. And we know when to dominate. I don't think that Kyrie more or less may not have the mental makeup to say, okay, man, James Harden's having that game tonight, so I'm just going to let him run the offense. I'll be cool. I don't think Kyrie's at that point. I don't think KD's at that point. You know, it's hard to have guys who, for the most part, have been number one guys, that have been number one guys.
You just throw them together.
Right. Trying to take a back seat, especially we all know how fragile mentally KD is. We know how fragile mentally Kyrie can be. So,
and Harden's not exactly an example of a guy who's got his shit together either, right? Like, he's constantly sort of bickering and had some shit going on in Houston and in Oklahoma City.
Exactly. So, yeah, man, but I'm still looking at the moves. I still think Westbrook's going to get moved. I still think Wall's going to get moved. We just saw, or actually it got reported before we had come on to the show, that all the talks about Gordon Hayward supposedly going to Indiana, that was his preferred destination, and that they were going to do a sign and trade with him, ends up signing a $120 million deal with the Charlotte Hornets of all teams.
And he said, so, you know what they said? They said MJ called him yesterday and said, let's make this happen. I mean, if that's all it takes for you, Gordon Hayward, good luck, my man, because you know there's not much to work with. I mean, they had to waive Nicholas Batum to even have the space for that, and then on top of that, right now it's basically bare bones with just LaMelo Ball and him for the time being. And they have some young pieces. Right. I should be fair, but hold your thoughts on that, because I wanna get your thoughts on the draft first. So let's go through that, because I think that's really important, because there was definitely some surprises both in the draft itself, but in the first 10 picks there was some really big surprises. One from the Bulls and another one from the Suns. So obviously we talked about the Wolves were able to, you know, have a lot of time to evaluate. They clearly didn't feel that LaMelo was going to fit with what they did as far as him and D'Angelo being a fit together. They clearly didn't see James Wiseman as a 4. That was a really huge point of contention for them, that if they did bring him in, it wouldn't be as a backup to Cat, and it would have to be them playing together. And that's just very hard for two big men to do, who basically do the same thing. So Anthony Edwards was the pick, explosive guy. You know, there's a lot of people who say he's got Harden-esque type of features, and, you know, with growth in his game, he can become that guy. But I think it was very clear, Nick, that there wasn't a bona fide number one pick in this draft. We've seen drafts like this before where there was 4 or 5 guys who kind of all glom onto the top, but usually we would have a consensus number one pick. And this year was very hard for everyone, you know, whether it be just the circumstances surrounding the draft, but we knew it was going to be Edwards, Wiseman, and Ball going for the first 3 picks. I just think it was like, who's going to trade up? Golden State was, you know, very non-committal about the pick. Even Charlotte was very non-committal about the pick, because they were kind of they weren't like too excited about the thought that they were going to get LaMelo Ball in this draft. So, you know, I think there was a lot of that, and we saw it go down the way that we predicted. Edwards going first, Wiseman, even with the injury to Klay Thompson, I thought personally, if they had, because remember during the draft night, which you were right, it was Wednesday night, it was still very early on in the news of Klay, and we didn't know what type of severity it was, and I think a lot of it was just like conjecture on what it could be. It turns out that obviously it's a season-ending injury, and in my mind, I'm thinking, if the Warriors knew that, why wouldn't they go out and draft LaMelo? But clearly they had a backup plan in Kelly Oubre in, and I think it's going to work out well for the Warriors, even though, again, they were very non-committal on Wiseman themselves, because they like guys who are athletic, good rim protectors, and guys who can move side to side when it comes to the centers. Wiseman doesn't exactly fit that profile, but he's going to be a very good center in this league. So I think it was very obvious that they just went with the best player available to them at that point. The first big surprise was Patrick Williams, and the Bulls selecting Patrick Williams at number 4. I think there was a lot of people who were saying during the week that the Bulls really loved Patrick Williams and that they were going to target Patrick Williams. But a lot of the rumors were like, well, they're going to trade back with the Knicks. They're going to trade back with this team. Maybe the Wizards would move up for somebody. And when, from what I'm reading, the Bulls went calling and nobody answered the phone calls. So they went and got their guy. I think it was an overdraft. I think pretty much everyone can see it was an overdraft. But I think when you don't have a consensus number one pick, and you know that you're a number 4 pick, you have to get the best player available that's going to, has the most upside. I like Patrick Williams. I really do. My problem with it is that when you select somebody at number 4, there's really a lot of expectations there. And I know you're a Florida State fan, so I know you have a little bit of an idea of Patrick, but what did you think about that pick overall? And just I know you were surprised because you and I had spoken between them, but what did you think about that?
Correction. I'm a Florida State
football fan. Okay, that's right. You're a UConn.
When it comes to college basketball, I'm a UConn Husky to the death.
That's right. Okay.
But don't get me wrong. I watched a lot of Florida State. I think Florida State, college basketball wise, is a very underrated school. I think Leonard Williams has done a great job with what they've done down there.
Yeah.
And look, at the end of the day, dude, all the talk about North Carolina, and all the talk about Duke, all the talk sometimes about NC State from a time-to-time basis. People sleep on Florida State, and think about it. They've produced maybe 5 or 6 lottery picks over the last few years.
Yeah, and two in this draft alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean there are some amazing guys coming out of Florida State. With Patrick Williams, he was great coming off the bench for Florida State.
Yeah.
And, when you look at the numbers, they don't jump out yet. 9.7 points a game, like little under 3 assists a game. They don't jump out at you.
Yeah.
I had some time to think about this because I'm like, man, why wouldn't the Bulls? Because at first, and I saw your status on Facebook when it happened. I was thinking, okay, well, here's the Bulls going to take Obi Toppin. And they don't do it. And then I'm like, okay, well, if they don't do that, then maybe they'll go for Avija, the kid from Israel. And they didn't do that. They go with Patrick Williams. And the first thing that I could think of when the Bulls made this pick was the Tyrese Thomas pick. Because obviously we know that they originally drafted LaMarcus Aldridge, and then they traded LaMarcus Aldridge to Portland, who then drafted Tyrese Thomas. And there was a lot of talk about how he had so much upside, and how
freak athlete,
he was a freak athlete, and all this other stuff, and it just never panned out.
Yeah,
and that's what I was afraid with the Patrick Williams pick. It's like, okay, this man's got he's like 6'9", he plays the 3, he's got a large wingspan.
Yeah.
But now this is a talent pick over a who can help me now pick.
Right.
So obviously, when you make a pick like this says, okay, we're not asking Patrick Williams to come out and drop MJ Rookie of the Year like numbers.
Sure.
But hopefully by year 3, we can finally bloom out everything that is, what we can get out of Patrick Williams.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of the direction the Bulls are going, because I feel like the Bulls are at a point where they're definitely in rebuild mode. So they're not coming in saying, yo, Billy Donovan, man, we need you to come out and win 55 games.
Right.
And we need the top 3 seed in the East, or this season is lost.
Right.
That's why you drafted Patrick Williams. I think that's who they seed in the East, or this season is lost.
Right.
That's why you drafted Patrick Williams. I think that's who they wanted on their board altogether. Because I was with you. I was reading reports for a team that really needed a point guard in New York. They were super high on Obi Toppin. They were so high on him, they almost traded up to 5 with Cleveland.
Yeah.
And then what the negotiations didn't go through, but then Cleveland didn't take Obi. And then I forget who was at 6, but they didn't take Obi. And then you have Detroit that's at 7, and they didn't take Obi. So then he ends up falling down to 8. So I think this is a clear direction of where the Bulls are going right now, where they're saying, okay, Patrick Williams is not going to help us out now. But like I said earlier, we're not trying to win 50 games. Like, if we do that, it's fine.
Right.
But that's not what we're trying to do right now. We're trying to develop a squad where in 3 years we have a bunch of good young kids that are going to come in. They're really going to gel with a young, quote unquote, young coach in Billy Donovan. And hopefully, this team can gel and be a playoff contender.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost the same model as what the Miami Heat did.
Sure.
Let's not play games. When LeBron James left Miami, it's not like Miami all of a sudden became this hot destination for everybody to go to.
Yeah.
They had to suck the next couple of years, had a couple of nice high draft picks. But what did they do? They stayed the course. You keep Eric Spoelstra there. Pat Riley's doing what he can to develop. And now look at them 4 years later, you're having reports that maybe Giannis wants to sign there.
Mm-hmm.
You're having, obviously you woo Jimmy Butler to come there. And this team won the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
So I think the Bulls are in that position. I think the Knicks are in that position. I think Charlotte, I think they were going to take LaMelo for the simple fact of LeVar. Because we know how much LeVar and Michael kind of have this. I think LeVar has this rivalry with Mike. I don't think Mike really has the rivalry.
But it's playful, right? It's playful. It's not it's not like a real, even LaMelo at his press conference, like, that's his dad, but he couldn't even lie. He's like, we all know how that one-on-one would go, So it was playful.
Exactly. So that's why I think Charlotte coming up, they realized that them signing Terry Rozier to all that money that they did, was a huge mistake. Terry Rozier is exactly what he was in Boston. He's nothing more than a backup point guard that'll give you 20 to 25 minutes a game.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with and this is where I don't want to get off too far off subject, right, but this is where I'm so happy with the regime of the Knicks, because Fred VanVleet just re-upped with Toronto for 4 years, $85 million. There were teams talking about paying this man $25 million. This man is a career backup to Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So unless you're going to really move Kyle Lowry, like Fred VanVleet, I thought had a lot of Terry Rozier. So you bring in a LaMelo to run the point. You bring in a Gordon Hayward, and now you just got to build from there. So, I'm stepping back from thinking that the Bulls maybe made a mistake with Patrick Williams. This is one of those picks where it's talk to me in 2 years. Let's figure out.
Right.
Let's reevaluate this, because in the direction the Bulls are going, this is a smart pick.
Right. You have to take into consideration, Nick, that he's the second youngest player in the draft. He's another one of these guys, and Obi's the same type of guy. Grew like 5 or 6 or 7 inches in one summer, right? So and also there was a lot of talks about like some really good, well-drafting teams who are super, super interested in him, including the Spurs, including teams like the Thunder. So I think the Bulls, and remember, this is the first draft with Arturas Karnisovas. He's the new GM from Denver. Did a tremendous job with Denver as far as drafting. Remember, he's the guy who drafted Nurkic and Jokic and all of these guys. By the way, he found those guys. Those guys weren't like, hey, we're diamonds. No, these were hidden prospects that he went and developed. So I I wasn't super enthused about the draft pick, but at the end of the day, when you look at it overall, we filled a need. That's a huge thing that people aren't really talking about right now. We really needed a wing defender and a guy who can defend 1 through 5, 7-foot wingspan, as you mentioned, really tall, very athletic, and good instincts for the game as well. So I'm not mad at it, but again, I think you hit it on the head. This is one where we have to set the calendar for 2 years from now, see how guys like, one thing that I was a little bit upset at is that, I'm not a huge fan of this Denny kid. I know that the Wizards ended up getting him, and they were really happy with where they got him. I know Killian Hayes from France was another really big sort of rumor for the Bulls, because they felt like he could kind of run pretty well with Kobe White. But overall, the rest of the draft kind of fell right into the Knicks' lap, and that's why I wanted to get into Obi, because you talked about it. The Cavaliers went with Isaac Okoro. The Hawks went with Onyeka Okongwu. And then the Pistons drafted Killian Hayes there at 7, which was still pretty high. But, again, I understand where their thinking is at when it comes to that. And in a perfect sort of story, Obi, New York kid, been through the adversity, wasn't exactly a guy who was like a phenom from day one. He's a late bloomer himself. And the reason why, before you get into your thoughts on Obi, I just thought that Obi would not fit with what the Bulls wanted to do. And that was a huge issue with Obi, is like, if you slot him in right now, can he play with Thaddeus Young and Lauri Markkanen and Wendell Carter and Daniel Gafford? Like, that's a lot. That's 4 guys ahead of you that you're not going to probably see the light of day. At least Patrick Williams can play some 3. He could play some 4. He could be in a small ball situation. But Obi overall, you know what you're getting out of him, an offensive, juggernaut, a guy who can go out and get the ball. And overall, I just didn't think it was a good fit for the Bulls. But we talked about this via text. I thought it was a blessing in disguise for the Knicks, because they probably already knew that Bobby Portis and Taj Gibson and Elfrid Payton weren't coming back. So what did you think about it overall? I know you're excited about the pick, but how do you feel it is fit-wise with the Knicks?
I think it's going to end up being a domino effect for the New York Knicks. You mentioned just a second ago, they declined the option on Bobby, they declined the option on Taj, they declined the option on Elfrid. That's almost $33 million that they saved now for declining the option on those guys. And then before we came on to the show, Bobby Portis signed a deal with Milwaukee, so he's with the Bucks now.
Yeah.
I thought this was the best. The Knicks could have gone one of 2 ways. They could have either gone with Obi, which they did, or they could have went with that kid Tyler Haliburton that came out of Iowa State. I
really liked him, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot, the Knicks fan base, it's weird because there's a lot of people that think that the Knicks should have gone with Haliburton because they needed a point guard. There's other ones that are saying, look, I agree with that, but Obi could fit right in. And now what the Knicks need is they're going to need that floor general, because if you think about it, you're going to have Mitchell Robinson and Obi and R.J. Barrett all running the floor.
Yep.
If you haven't, I don't know, a lot of people may not have been paying attention, but R.J. put on 15 pounds of muscle over the offseason, so he's coming in ripped. Mitchell Robinson has worked on his game so much that this man's now shooting threes, something I never think I'd see him do. But I saw him in the gym, one of those mellow gym workouts, and he's out there just popping threes at this point. So I thought athleticism-wise, I think that's great. But then at the same time, we all know that Tom Thibodeau is not the one that's too fond of playing rookies per se.
Yeah.
But I don't really look at Obi as a rookie. This man's coming in at 22 years old.
Yeah.
So this might be his first year in the league, but this technically is kind of a grown man compared to all the other people that are coming out. So I think that really fits in with what the Knicks are what the Knicks are trying to do. I like it, but hey, Matt, give me 1 sec. I got to take this call real quick. I'm going to be right back, but I do want to talk about the Kings real quick when I come back.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just kind of jump into give you guys an idea how the rest of the draft shaked out while Nick is handling some business, because we talked about it. The Knicks went with Obi Toppin out of Dayton with the 8th pick. Then the Wizards selected Deni Avdija out of Israel. The Suns was one of the really big surprise picks because Tyrese Haliburton was available, Devin Vassell was available, Kira Lewis was available. So there was a lot of really, really good players available that had high upside. And the Suns drafted Jalen Smith, who I remember watching him at Maryland, very raw, big man. It's the second year in a row that they've drafted somebody that wasn't really in the realm of being picked there. So clearly the Suns have a direction where they want to go, what they want to do, and that's clearly what we're seeing here. And before I get too far in the draft here, I'm seeing some comments. Christian said that was Gar Forman and Paxson picking and trading. I trust Arturis Eversley in their scout. Yeah, absolutely, Christian. That's a good point. Patrick Williams also used to be a point guard when he was 6'2", then he grew to 6'9". Also, I heard Popovich and the Pistons rumor. Yep, exactly. Go get Patrick Williams. So I heard the same exact thing. I heard that the Spurs were hot on his trail. I also heard the Pistons were ready to give up assets to just move up basically 3 picks. So clearly there was a lot of interest there. And the Knicks bringing back Melo, as Christian mentioned. We'll ask Nick when he gets back about the possibilities of that. I'm having a hard time seeing Melo go to a non-championship contender at this point, but we'll see what Nick thinks about that. Every draft that Arturis did in Denver prior questioning it, and look how Denver is talented now. Yeah, I know you have to trust the process when it comes to drafting. And again, I think Bulls fans are they have so much PTSD from Garpax that they could never imagine that this would be an upside pick. So hard to imagine that the Bulls would not do their homework on this kid. 19 years old, like we talked about, and a guy that's still growing in his game. I think that's very important to mention, and a good character kid as well. Which obviously it's important to have some sort of glue guys available to you. And the Bulls also went out and got Garrett Temple, which it looks like probably will end their offseason. I don't see many more moves you can make if you're the Bulls. I mean, maybe they can bring up another wing or another shooting guard, but with Kobe White and Zach LaVine and Otto Porter coming back, and then obviously now you have a power forward slash small forward that you can bring off the bench. You also have your starters here that will more than likely get some minutes with Wendell Carter and Lowry. And looks like Nick is back. So I do want to, because we did get some comments, so I kind of wanted to get your opinion on this, because I just wrapped sort of the top 10 here with the draft. But Christian was wondering, I heard the Knicks might bring back Melo, and I was just saying, man, it's hard.
I heard that too.
Yeah, but it's hard for me to imagine a situation where Melo isn't going to be ring chasing over the next couple of years. If he's going to the Knicks, that shows to me that he thinks he's got like 3, 4, 5 years left. So, we'll see about that. But what do you think overall? How do you think fit wise that works with the Knicks?
If you bring back Carmelo, it's going to be a guy that I think that Thibodeau has been wanting to work with. Because remember when he was in his prime with the Knicks, Thibodeau really wanted to be the Knicks coach.
Yeah.
And he was lobbying for it before Jeff Hornacek came along, and Phil Jackson pretty much put this team 5 to 15 years behind where we were at anyway. So, there was all that nonsense. But I think Carmelo would actually be a great mentor for Obi. And because now you got to think about it. If the Knicks bring in Melo, let's say if they do, and you already drafted Obi, that lets me know that Julius Randle's on his last leg in New York. And I know that sounds bad, but at the same time, because I never liked Julius Randle being that point forward. He's not that guy. Like Lamar Odom is a point forward. Yeah. LeBron is a point forward. KD, for what it's worth, can be a point forward. Julius Randle is not an elite offensive guy that he should be bringing up the ball, setting up the offense, which is one of the reasons why the Knicks have to do something about their point guard situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but at the same time, we drafted this kid, Quinley from Kentucky. Well, actually, we traded for him. We got the kid Leandro Barmoro from Argentina, and then we made the switch for him. So, we bring him in, but I would be okay with Carmelo coming to New York, especially with Tom Thibodeau being on win now mode. Carmelo puts you on win now mode, and he can actually train the young kid before he decides that he's going to go. But I would love to see Melo come back. I think give Melo a second chance in New York and not having this triangle shoved down his throat and all this other BS nonsense that comes with it. So I'd be all for it. Christian said a little bit ago that Felicio needs to be released too. And I don't know if the list is still in there, but you know how I feel about Cristiano Felicio.
Oh God,
he's got to be arguably the worst center, if not the worst player in the NBA.
Yeah. We put him up there with Zaza Pachulia, John Lucas III, Emeka Okafor, Marquise Chris, your favorite Marquise Chris.
Garbage.
Yeah. No,
Marquise Chris is so garbage.
And I want to get, because I love Emmanuel Quickly. I texted you about that. I thought he was going to be a candidate that would drop to the second round and be a steal for a team. He ended up going 25 with you guys. I thought RJ Hampton was another guy that the Knicks were going to go after, because that kid,
so
yeah, he was one of those first guys that said, I'm not going to deal with the NCAA. I'm going to go to Australia. He was, AAU teammates with, I think, the Ball brothers, if I'm not mistaken. This is a guy who's got some skin in the game, but just a lot of people are very nervous about bringing him in and seeing how he's going to handle the NBA atmosphere from day one. But I thought RJ Hampton would have been a really nice pick for obviously my team, but for the Knicks as well. But Quickly is a really nice combo guard, and I think he really fits what the Knicks need right now, which, let's remember, RJ Barrett, he's going to try and develop himself as a top scorer in this league, but there's no top scorer right now on the Knicks, and to be able to come in and have a guy like Quickly, fill in a void, he's a guy who can get buckets quickly, and he's got a very sort of refined game because he comes from Kentucky as well.
Right. And you know who I wish the Knicks would have drafted? He went maybe 2 or 3 picks before, was the Maxley kid from
the one who went to the 76ers.
Kentucky that went to Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That's who I was kind of hoping, because the Knicks do need that kind of person too, a guy that can kind of create his own shot and be a big time scorer. But I thought Philadelphia really hit a home run, and you could see what's his name, Morey, putting his hand on the Philadelphia 76ers, because obviously Elton Brand, some guys are good players. Okay, I've said this about Isaiah Thomas. We all know Isaiah Thomas is one of the greatest guards, especially one of the greatest point guards, shooting guards, whatever you want to call them, that's ever played the game of basketball. As a talent evaluator, as far as kids coming out of college, dude, he's a monster.
Yeah.
As a GM for NBA talent, he's absolutely garbage.
Yeah.
And I feel Elton Brand is kind of the same way, because here's a guy where when Philadelphia was kind of at his peak, dude, you can't go out. Okay, there's one thing when you draft Markelle Fultz.
Mm-hmm.
Then you turn around and you draft Ben Simmons because Markelle Fultz has such a bad shoulder injury. You have no idea on what's going to come out of that. So you end up trading Markelle Fultz, but then you got rid of all your shooters. You let J.J. Redick walk to New Orleans. You traded Robert Covington for basically nothing. And then to make it worse, you gave a $100 million contract to an aging Al Horford when you had Joel Embiid, who's the center of your team. And the funny thing is I bet you Elton Brand was like, Horford is not the shooter that you were looking for. So, and then you signed that big contract.
Hey Nick, you're breaking up. Your connection is breaking up on us just a little bit. Am I breaking up again? Just a little bit, yeah. But no, I got the and also I do want to break some news because it just happened right now. But Rajon Rondo has agreed to a 2-year deal with the Hawks. The Hawks have been active. They went out and got Danilo Gallinari. They also went out and got Chris Dunn, a top level perimeter defender. So clearly the Hawks are going to go a little bit small this year. They've got 3 point guards, including Trae Young, Rajon Rondo, and now Chris Dunn. Which Chris Dunn, he's not exactly a point guard. He's a perimeter guard defender. But another move for the Hawks. And let's be honest, Nick, the the market is getting a little bit empty now. Like, we thought usually a week in you'll have at least a couple guys left, but we're only like 3 or 4 days into this now, and we're starting to see a lot of movement here. Dwight Howard signing with the Sixers. We did see a huge trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder, sending Steven Adams out. He will be going to the Pelicans. Watch out for the Pelicans this year, man. I mean, when you talk about what they needed a center really, really badly, and what a center you can get in Steven Adams.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And, obviously Steven Adams is no AD, but you're going to get some real toughness and grit, and that's what they kind of need on the inside, which they lost when AD went to LA. So, and speaking of which, and I know it's going to probably be a minute, and I don't expect him to leave. But with the Lakers making all these moves coming out there, who did they signed?
They signed
they got
Montrezl Harrell.
Montrezl Harrell, and then they signed. Oh my God, why am I blanking? Oh, Wes Matthews.
Yeah, Wesley Matthews for the veteran minimum, and Dwight Howard was close to coming back too, and clearly was like, I think he tweeted something like, purple and gold, baby, I'm back, and then like deleted it, and then a couple of minutes later it was signed with this guy because he just dropped off right now. So.
Yeah, our internet just went down for a second.
I see. Okay.
Back up now.
Yeah, so we'll get Nick back on here. Do you want to halt, or do you want to keep going?
Let's just keep going.
Keep going. Okay, cool.
Still
As long as you can get him in.
Yeah. Give me a second. Look at that.
I know. Cool.
Wow. There we are. There he is.
All right, my bad. I don't know, dude. My Wi-Fi is acting very Wi-Fi right now.
You good.
Same
We got
here.
it. And I don't want. I want you to continue on with your thought process because you were going to talk about AD and the Lakers. The only other one we didn't mention for them was Dennis Schroeder. They traded for Dennis Schroeder
right.
as well. So Wesley Matthews, Dennis Schroeder, and now Montrezl Harrell. And I know which is that AD has not quite re-signed with them yet. The plan is for him to re-sign. I think they said sometime in December, but it hasn't happened yet, and Rich Paul is being a little bit coy about what the process looks like.
Yeah, dude. I saw that yesterday, and I know a lot of Laker fans are probably holding their breath. They're like, dude, what's going on? You would have thought that probably would have been the first move that you did.
Yeah.
Was to re-sign, for a guy who. But I mean, think about it, dude. I mean, Gordon Hayward just turned down $34 million to be with Boston to turn around and sign a similar-esque deal with the Charlotte Hornets. Again, I don't think that AD is going anywhere.
No.
But I just find it kind of weird how your first two signings are Montrezl Harrell and Wesley Matthews and trading for Dennis Schroeder. But it's not the big prize that's supposed to be Anthony Davis. So, dude, we'll see what's going on. But I'm still waiting the AT&T lady here in a sec. But before she comes in, what I wanted to talk about are the Sacramento Kings. Because I'm looking too much. I said this on Twitter yesterday. I'm trying to get my Twitter game back up. I got a lot of work to do, but I'm trying to get it back up. But I found it weird that the whole reason I thought the Kings drafted Tyler Haliburton was because they weren't sure if De'Aaron Fox was going to stay. So you draft Haliburton, and then the very next day, De'Aaron Fox signs a max deal up to $160 million, which then can boom up to $196 million. And of course, you know me in my head. I've been saying that the Knicks should sell the farm for De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
The Knicks need a point guard.